everyone, this is Tox from critshappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. Before we get started, I'd like to point out something. We have our second piece of creativity on our wall. Now this is super cool for me. The person who donated this asked to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to say who they are, but he knows who he is, and thank you very much. This has some sentimental value to me. This is a poster by Callan Sankovich, who is a comic book artist, and it's old. It's 1988 is when this was made. And it has some personal touch for me because this person reached out to me. We did the video, we asked for people to reach out to us, and he reached out and said, hey, I've got a bunch of old comic book posters. Would it be okay to send you one? And I said, sure, what do you have? He said, well, I've got this, I got this, I got this. And when he said it, it triggered and I remembered it. When I was growing up, we had converted our attic in this very large farmhouse into like a clubhouse for me and my friends. And I worked at a comic book shop, so I would get a bunch of all these extra things that were just throwaways. We would have cardboard cutouts, like 6-foot tall things of Wolverine, well, probably 5'1" tall things of Wolverine. But we would have all these extras. We had uncut cards from trading cards and stuff like that. And this poster was a poster that I had bought, and I loved it. I love Batman. He's my favorite comic book character, and I really liked the print and how it looked. And it had Green Arrow, and it had the Question. And I was not that big of a fan of the Question, but it was one poster that just, from an artistic standpoint, always struck out and stuck in my memory. And when he said he had it, I almost flipped and went nuts. And I won't explain why I don't have mine. It's a long story for a taller beer, so don't worry about that. But he said he had it and he wanted to send it to me, and it's kind of beat up, which is kind of cool because it makes me think it might have been mine that was in my attic. So it's a great piece of art. Thank you very much. Again, the donor asked to be anonymous, so I won't say who they were, but thank you very much. And it is sitting next to our first piece, which is actually from artist Shane Tyree from the Albino Dragon, which happens to be the game we're reviewing, is also from Albino Dragon. This is one of two games we're about to do really back-to-back here pretty soon. This is Genegrafter. The other is a game called Ace of Spies. We'll do that shortly after. If not, maybe the same day. If I can get them out, we'll try and get them out and see what we can do. So Genegrafter is the first Kickstarter that Albino Dragon did. And it is a dystopian, cyberpunk kind of feel to it, I guess is the easiest way to say it. It is a futuristic society where beings, humans, different things, have gained powers and superpowers, and you are fighting. You are somebody who controls them, and you're fighting against your opponents. It's a 2 to 4 player game, and it only plays in about 10 to 20 minutes. It's super fast. It's definitely a filler game. You could, because it is so fast and so fun, you could actually end up playing this thing all night, but it is a good game to use as a filler game to go in between larger games because it is so quick. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to be using characters. Those characters will have attack and defense values and magical powers. You will then also use abilities, which will buff your characters in fights. You will also use events that will come up from the main deck. We'll explain those a little bit more in a second. There's not many of them, but they're very powerful and they're very impacting to the game. And then in addition, you'll see some things that are Kickstarter bonuses, like extra characters that are a little more powerful, and some equipment cards as well. We'll explain those as we go through the gameplay. But for right now, let's strap on all of our cyberpunk gear, let's get our fists ready to fight, and jump into the world of Genegrafter. So here we have a starting game for Genegrafter with 2 players. Before you begin the game, you separate all of the characters and the abilities, you shuffle them, you deal 5 cards to each player, then you put back in all of the events, and then you shuffle up again. In addition, you have 3 cards that look like this, which are DNA strands. When you draw cards from the top of the deck, once 3 of these come out, the game is over. So the game could be over immediately in 3 turns if those are the top 3 cards. Hopefully you shuffle a little bit better than that though, so the game will go a little longer. Now once you have your 5 cards, you get a player board, and on the player board you see there's 3 red tokens and 3 blue tokens. Now if you are lucky enough to keep them towards the end of the game, they will count as points for you. For every 2 tokens you have left on your board, they will be worth 1 point. That doesn't seem like a lot, but this game is a low-scoring game. In fact, so much so, we've had games where the winner only has 5 points. It is a very fast-paced game. Essentially on your turn, you do 4 things. The first thing you do, let's say I'm this player here on the left, is I draw a card, and I look at it. Now this is an equipment card, which is one of the Kickstarter extras. And if I put this on one of my characters, he's going to permanently get 2 red attack dice for when he's attacking, which is really good. Had it been a yellow card and it had been an event, I would have had to flip it over, play it face up, do what the event says, and then I would draw another card to replace the one that was the event. The same thing for the DNA strand. If the DNA strand is what comes off the top, it goes out up here, and then I would draw another card to replace it. So then once I've drawn, I can play a character card, and I can play up to 3 characters per turn. So I'm going to look at my hand right now, and I'm going to see that I have a private eye who has 2 attack and 1 defense die. He has 1 gene pool point, and it's blue. And then I have an exoskeleton equipment, which would give my character an additional red and blue die for the attack and defense. I have James, who is a luck character. He also is worth 1 point. He has 1 attack and 3 defense. And then I have some abilities and the equipment, the katana I just drew. Now, what I want to do is I want to get my characters out. So I'm going to play the private eye, and I'm going to play James. Now, I can normally choose to attack right now, but because my opponent doesn't have any characters, I can't attack him. So it's not going to do me any good. So then I would go through my battle phase, there's no one to battle, and then I would discard down to 7 cards. I obviously don't have 7, so I'm okay. So then the next player would start, and he would look at his hand, and he has Lance, who's super cool looking. He's worth 2 DNA points. He has 2 attack and 2 defense, and he has this special infinity power, which is really awesome because he benefits from every single superpower that's out there. So he's super powerful. He has a couple of powers. You'll notice this gives extra attack dice. We'll talk about that in a second. And then there's ones like Lucky Shot, which will say double any 1 roll or double any 2 rolls. He has Shadow Queen and he has Tough Skin. So he has an advantage. We'll go ahead and we'll play Shadow Queen, and we'll go ahead and we'll play Lance. Now, in a multiplayer game, you can attack each player once. So in a 2-player game, you basically pick one of your guys to attack one of their guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare an attack, and I don't want to risk Lance losing, so I'm going to keep him back, and I'm going to attack with the Shadow Queen. So I announce I'm going to attack with the Shadow Queen, and I choose who I want to defend against. So I'm going to choose the Private Eye, because he only has 1 defense die. Now the first thing that happens after the characters are declared is the defender has the option to start a chain. What they're going to do is they're going to look at their hand, and any card they want can be played face down. So I want to make sure that I help my guy out with defense. So the katana is not going to help me right now, but the exoskeleton would. So I'm going to go ahead and play this card face down. Now it passes back to the attacker. The attacker can then choose to play a card face down, and I'm going to play Gamma Blast. Now, if I had this same power on my character, I would get 2 dice as a bonus. But in this case, it's only going to give me 1. So that would take me from 2 attack to 3 attack. Now you'll notice at this point, neither of us know how much attack and how much defense we are generating. We could be bluffing each other and trying to make the other person discard cards thinking that they have to defend up when they really don't. So looking again, I have another card that could help me with defense called Frozen. Everyone that gets this card would get 1 blue die extra, and if they had ice as their power, they would get 2 extra. Our Private Eye doesn't, but we'll still go ahead and put it there to make sure that he can defend. So by now, we're up to 3 defense dice, but our attacker doesn't know that. They know they have 3 attack dice, but they don't know what the defense is. So I'm going to go ahead and play Lucky Shot, which says double any 1 roll or double any 2 dice rolls. Now, because the superpowers don't match, I can't get the second part of it, so I'll just be able to double one of my rolls. Now the defender has a choice. He's seen me play 2 cards on my attacker. The defender has to choose, do I want to play another card or do I want to use a token? If I decide I want to use a token, I can take a token off of here and put it on my chain. and that will add that die to my roll when I defend. Back to the attacker, and the attacker could choose to add an attack die to their attack. Once both players have passed, the chains are flipped up and all the abilities are resolved. They go in order from backwards to forward. So this is going to give the attacker 1 red die. Then he's going to have the ability to double any one roll, so that will stay in play until he doubles it. Then he's going to get another red die, and then he's going to get his 2 red dice from his attack. So he's going to be able to roll 4 red dice and double any one die. So that's going to be a really good attack roll. Then we'll go over and we'll look at our defense. The private eye is going to try and defend from the Shadow Queen. He gets 1 blue from his token. He's going to flip over and get another blue from Frozen. And then he's going to flip over and get 1 blue from his exoskeleton. And the exoskeleton is equipment, so it will stay on him even after the fight is over, assuming he wins. And then he gets his 1 die for his defense. So he's only going to have 3 dice total against the 4 dice and 1 double of an attack roll. So we'll go ahead and roll the attack first for the Shadow Queen. The Shadow Queen would roll, and of course she's going to double her 6. So she has 10, 22, and 4 has 26 points of attack. There's literally no way the private eye can survive. He rolls a 7 total. Maximum he could have rolled would have been 18, so he still would have lost. The equipment goes to the discard pile, and the private eye goes to the opponent's gene pool. So now that opponent has 1 point because there's 1 gene symbol on the private eye. Every card that was in play, the Lucky Shot, the Gamma Blast, and the Frozen, all goes into the discard pile, and the Shadow Queen comes back into her line. And that's the end of the attacking player's turn. It then goes to the other player's turn, they would draw a new card, and they would continue from there. So, you can see, this is very fast. That's all the rules. Everything I just showed you is exactly what you have to do to win the game. Attack, attack, attack. Now, the interesting thing would be, let's say for example, the attacker only rolled 2 dice and rolled a 9. And let's say the defender rolled a 13. The defender would have won, the defender would have stayed in play, and the defender would have destroyed the attacker and gotten them in their gene pool. So just because you attack doesn't mean you're always going to win. And it doesn't mean you're not going to lose your character. There's some really cool in-game abilities that will allow you to heal your character to make sure that they will stay alive even if they're defeated. There's some that will completely destroy both characters in the battle. There's some that will even allow you to shuffle characters back into the main deck if they are defeated. So there's a lot of different in-game mechanics that really add to the flair and excitement of it. So that's Genegrafter. So let's take a look first at the components. The components are very, very good. The card quality stands up. We've actually shuffled this guy pretty hard this week. We've done a lot of power gaming with it, and it has stood the test. It is not, no chips, no frays, no anything like that. It's done a really good job with that. The dice and the tokens are just dice and tokens, pretty generic. One thing that was a little odd, so the box is very soft, almost silky soft, which is a little odd because what happens is it's really nice, it slides, the top slides on really good, but when you have all these components in the box and you pick it up, it falls really quickly out of there because it's so slick. So if you back this or if you get it, be careful when you open your box or when you pick the box up. The player boards are really, really good. They are pictures that go all the way on the back and they sealed the back. There's no seams. Really, really good job on these. And they're hard cardboard, so I mean those things are really going to stand the test of time. The rulebook could have had some extra work done to it, I think. It's very good in terms of pictures, but it's just almost, if I could say this, the easiest way I could think of to say this, it's almost too direct. I actually really like rulebooks that feel like I'm discussing with the designer, oh, this is what I do, this is how you play your turn, it feels more like a conversation and I'm reading a book than just here's A, do A, here's B, do B. And this one is very to the point. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just kind of style and preference. Now, as I have this page open, this is probably a really good page to stick on for the next piece. So this is the page with all of the superpowers. And as you can see, there is a lot of superpowers. And they're not generic names. Like there's antimatter manipulation, there's gravity manipulation, there's pyrokinesis, there's light manipulation, clairvoyance. They're great names. The problem is there's so many of them. And none of those words are on the cards. It's only the icons on the characters and the icons on the abilities that you see. So from a gameplay experience, what tends to happen, you forget about what the powers are, and you're just matching the pictures, which is kind of a detractor from the experience and the theme and the flair. It's not that bad, but it's something that did take away a little bit from the play. The other thing that took a little bit away from the play is the names of the characters are very generic. Even to the tune of some of them are named Lance, and some of them are named the Shadow Queen. So not very creative, imaginative names, but the artwork more than makes up for that. Shane Tyree, who is the artist for the Albino Dragon, has a very unique and distinct style of artwork. In fact, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, they do live Google Plus Hangouts where you'll see him draw either pictures from games or from the card sets that they're putting out, like the bicycle cards, and it's really, really cool. I highly recommend to check that out. So the artwork definitely makes up for it. But gameplay-wise, it's fast, it's furious, and it's easy. There is one thing that comes up. So 4-player games can get done in 15-20 minutes, which is great. It is a filler game, and it does a really good job of being a filler game like that. But this problem rears its head more so in the 2-player game than it does in the 4-player game. It will rear its head in the 4-player game. And here's what it is. We're maybe on turn 2 or turn 3, and I have no more characters in my hand, and you kill my last character I have out on the board. I then draw my card for my next turn, and I don't get a character, so I can't do anything. I pass to you. You have 2 or 3 characters in front of you, but you can't do anything. Because you can't attack me, the person, you have to attack my characters. Since I don't have any in play, you can't do anything. So cool, you draw a card, comes back to me. I draw another card, don't get a character. Goes to you, you draw another card. Hey, it's a character. Put it down. Hey, now you have 4 characters. You still can't do anything because you can't attack me, you have to attack my characters. And that tends to happen, unfortunately, more so than you would like it to. And that can take away from the experience. Now, that said, just because somebody gets 4 or 5 characters out and I only have 1 or none, actually this game is balanced pretty darn well to where you won't get run over. What happens is you have to manage your abilities very, very well. It's going to happen where you get run over. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. There's going to be things that, you know, if somebody has 4 or 5 characters and the characters you draw just won't help you get back in the game. So overall, the gameplay is good. It's not great, but it's good. It could have been a little better, I think, maybe on having some cards like abilities that were immediate effects, like events, or even more events that let you get characters if you had less characters than somebody else. But you will have a fun time playing it. And again, being a filler game, it's going to be something you play in between other games probably. It goes so quick that it won't be too much of a deterrent for that. Overall, it is a hit of a game. It is beautiful artwork, it is good components, and it is a good base start for gameplay. The Kickstarter extras are really nice. The equipment that you can keep out on your characters as long as they're surviving is really cool and can really sway the game very well. And the Kickstarter characters are really good looking. Just the artwork is really great on them. Some of them are after real people in real life and do a really good job. But overall, the base game itself, very fun. The Kickstarter extras make it even more fun. And hopefully, we will see more cards and more expansions that will even augment it even more. So overall, Genegrafter gets a hit from Crits Happen. We'd love to hear what you think. We hope that you like this critical review. And whether you're a Kickstarter backer of this game or you've never seen it before and now you're interested in it, let us know what you think. Feel free to leave your comments here on the YouTube channel below. Of course, you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen, and at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, we hope you have fun duking it out in the cyberpunk dystopian world of Genegrafter. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits.